Happy Friday, everybody. We have now survived our first full week of virtual learning for those of you who are in Maryland and Northwestern. And if you are in Alabama and watching, you have survived your first week with this crazy new schedule. So as always, for Remote Fridays, we're going to do a quick review of everything we've talked about in science this week, and then I will set you guys free to go and do your classwork for today. So in our science unit for this quarter, we've talked about three kind of big topics. We've talked a lot about weather and climate. We've talked about the types of clouds, and we've talked about the water cycle. And I want to do a review of all of those things from this week before I send you off to do your classwork. So the first thing I want us to quickly review is our 4 types of clouds. So hopefully if you are thinking, as Ms. Smith is typing, what are the 4 types of clouds? And there are 4 main ones. The first one is our big puffy clouds, and those are the ones that look like cotton balls. When we see these big puffy clouds, that means we have fair weather. It's sunny, the sun is shining, the skies are clear, there's no precipitation coming. Do you remember what they're called? Hopefully you are thinking cumulus clouds. So Ms. Smith is pulling up her screen so I can show you guys some pictures of cumulus clouds. Here are our cumulus clouds. They're big, they're fluffy, they're white. Again, they look like cotton balls. This means fair weather. Our next type of cloud also is for fair weather, which means clear skies, but they're thin and wispy. Does anyone remember what the thin and wispy clouds are? They're very high up in the sky. Hopefully you're thinking of cirrus clouds. Cirrus clouds. Now remember, not circus. A lot of us see this word and we think circus clouds. We're talking about cirrus clouds. These are not good pictures that Ms. Smith is trying to pull up. Here we go. They're very thin. They're wispy. They almost don't even look like a cloud at all. Again, when we see these clouds, it also means fair weather, but they are much higher up than our cumulus clouds. Now, my third type of cloud are the dark, stormy clouds. This means a thunderstorm is coming and there's definitely rain. They're gray, sometimes they can be black. Does anyone remember what those clouds are called? Hopefully, you're thinking cumulonimbus clouds, and they can look like this. We see like the darker colors. This one almost looks like a thunderstorm. You can see it kind of coming in their horizon. They're very, very dark. This means rain is definitely coming. My fourth type of cloud is like a gray blanket. This could also be fog that we see outside. This means rain is coming. Does anyone remember what our last cloud is called? I'll give you a hint. It starts with a st. Hopefully you're thinking stratus clouds. And again, they just kind of look like big gray blankets. They're not very pretty. They don't really look like clouds. They just kind of cover the sky. These also mean that rain is coming. So our 4 big clouds: cumulus, stratus, cumulonimbus, and cirrus. Those are our 4 big clouds. Now this week, we also talked about the stages of the water cycle. And we learned how the water cycle operates in a circle. That's why we say the word cycle. It just goes over and over and over again. So here is a good picture, if I can get it to pull up, of our water cycle. So let's take a look. We know that the sun is what heats and powers all of the water cycle. The sun gives off heat, which is what changes the water, such as water in our oceans and rivers. It heats it up to make it evaporate. So when water turns into water vapor, which is a gas, and goes up into the sky, that is called evaporation. So right here in this picture, we see evaporation. The water turns into a gas and goes back up into the sky. So here, you guys, are some pictures of the water droplets right here. Now, when they form into clouds in the sky, that is called condensation. Condensation. So here we see the clouds. Clouds forming together is condensation. Now, once the clouds get full, the water has to come back down to the ground. So we call that precipitation, is when the water falls from the clouds. That could be rain, hail, sleet, or snow. Now, once there is precipitation, we have what is called runoff. Runoff is where the water lands somewhere. Maybe it lands on the top of a mountain or a hill, or sometimes when you guys are driving on the street and you look out when it's raining, you'll see the water running and it looks like it's pushing into the drains. That's an example of runoff. The water is moving from one place until it ends up in some sort of body of water, whether that's a pond, a river, a lake, or an ocean. So those are our 4 biggest steps: evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and runoff. Now, one word we've kind of thrown around a little bit is this word right here, transpiration. Transpiration only has to do with plants, and that is when water evaporates off of plants, okay? So those are our 4 big parts of the water cycle. Now, we also know, Ms. Smith doesn't have her cup of water in here, we can see condensation and evaporation happening in real time. If Miss Smith took her bottle of water outside and I dumped it onto the sidewalk and I left it there and I came back 20 minutes later, would that puddle still be there? Hopefully you're shaking your heads and saying no, it wouldn't be there because it evaporates. The heat from the sun will dry my puddle up, turn my water into a gas, water vapors, and it'll go back up into the sky to eventually form to make a cloud. Condensation happens every day too. If you are getting a glass of water from the kitchen and it's a very cold glass of water and you leave it sitting out, sometimes you guys will notice the outside of the glass gets wet. You pick it up and you're like, did my water spill? But it didn't. That is condensation. That is the water droplets cooling off to actually form back into a liquid. So sometimes you guys can see it happen in real life. Now, the last thing I wanted to quickly go over with you guys when we're thinking about weather is some of those basic tools that meteorologists use. Now, we know meteorologists, when they want to measure how much rainfall they are getting, when we want to measure rainfall, we use a rain gauge. Rain gauge. Now, what if I want to know the temperature outside? What is that tool called? The temperature outside. Hopefully you're thinking thermometer. That tells me the temperature. And we know that we measure degrees in Fahrenheit. Degrees Fahrenheit. Now, the last big tool we've really been talking about is what measures wind speed. And that is our anemometer. It has those cups and it spins and it tells us how fast the wind is moving. Now, if I want to know the direction of my wind, so whether my wind is blowing north, south, east, or west, I have 2 tools I could use. I could use a wind vane, which looks like this. A lot of the times it has a rooster on top of it, and it has our directions, and whichever way the arrow is pointing is telling us which direction the wind is blowing. Or you may see a wind sock. And same thing, when the wind blows, whichever direction the sock pulls in is the direction that the wind is blowing in. So that was kind of our very quick review of everything we've talked about this week. Now, Ms. Smith is going to show you guys what your classwork will look like when you go to it. So Ms. Smith's screen will look a little different, of course, since I'm the teacher, but you'll go to classwork. And when you guys click on it, you'll see it right up here at the top. It'll say week 13, 11/30 to 12/4. And you'll see where it says Friday, 12/4, remote day classwork. You'll have a note from Ms. Smith. It says, good morning, everyone. You all have done a great job this week. We have learned a lot about the water cycle and weather patterns. Today, we will do a review of all that we have learned about clouds, the water cycle, and weather and climate. You will watch our video below first, which is what you guys are watching now. Once you have finished the video, you may click on the Google form, which is right here, to complete your classwork for today. Your Google form will look like this, you guys. It is 10 questions. I want you to read very carefully. Take your time and answer the questions that you think are the best. When you guys get finished with number 6, you're gonna see this graph. This is actually a graph we looked at this week. and you are going to have two questions that go with the graph. So make sure you come back up here to look at the graph. And then you have number 9 and number 10, you're gonna have to write a sentence. Once you guys have finished all 10 of those questions, you may turn it in and you are finished with science for the week. I can't wait to see your work, and hopefully I will see you guys on Monday. Have a good weekend. Bye.